So, if you leave me, babe, I won't die the same. No, I won't die the same. Oh, so, if you leave me, babe, I'll be the one to blame. I'll be the one to blame. Truly, babe.
Stood next to the preacher, staring at a majestic tree with white leaves, whose regal branches reached toward the sky in a way in which I have never seen before. Their beautiful white leaves floated to cover the ground around us. One landed on the tip of my nose, its sweet fragrance soothing to my troubled soul. I turned to look around us and frowned when I saw that we were surrounded on all sides by dead trees, whose gray and brittle limbs were a stark contrast to the white crowned tree that sat in the center. The soil underneath my feet was so dry, it felt as if I was standing on stone. Seeing that dry soil made a sense of forbearing fall over me that nearly brought tears to my eyes, and I didn't know why. What is this place? I asked the preacher, because it felt like we were standing somewhere unreal. I felt like we were stuck inside a beautifully haunted painting where time didn't exist. The preacher squatted down and picked up a handful of the dry soil, rubbing it between his fingers as he studied it. This place is nearly a wasteland, and it grieves my heart so. He paused for just a moment as he looked around at the dead trees. If we only knew how merciful the Heavenly Father was. If we only knew how much He's sacrificed because of His love for us, and how much we take that sacred love for granted, our bones would liquefy in our bodies. He shook his head. He made it that way on purpose, you know. What way? I asked him. He made it so that we wouldn't know. He made it so that we would have to consider on our own, to consider the Father and all that He's done for us is our way of showing that we love Him. But many of us are so selfish that we'd never even consider. Many of us would never see past ourselves. You see, in this beginning, the Ancient of Days made a covenant with man in the garden to create them in His image. His gaze rose to the tree, whose beautiful flowers continued to fall. What a gift to be created in His image. What an honor. But many of us, we don't see it that way. And in our vanity, we assume we have other options. We assume we understand what living is. And for many of us, we assume that we can do it without being in His image, although He spoke it into existence. He shook his head. The vanity of man. I'd heard the preacher utter those words more times than I could count throughout my whole life. He exhaled as he stood, letting the dry soil slip through his fingers. As soon as the first speck touched the ground, the beautiful white leaves that littered the ground around us began to wither up and die. And I don't know why, but seeing those leaves die made me feel as if I was dying. I clutched my chest that suddenly felt tight. What's happening to the leaves, preacher? You're asking the wrong question, son. You should be asking, what is happening to the garden? And if what is happening to this garden is soon to happen to that tree. My gaze went back to all the dead trees, and then the dead leaves. For the most part, this garden was dead. The soil was too dry. The last signs of life was the beautiful white tree in the center. But even a few of its majestic branches that was bare of all the leaves had started to wither. I went to take a step toward it, but the preacher brought his hand to my chest, stopping me. No one but the high priest walks on that ground. It's sacred. I looked at him confused. What you mean? Like in a temple? Where the mercy seat is? Exactly. You see, every human is given the gift of life at conception. He gestured toward the dying garden around us. This is the likeness of yours. It has all but become a dry place. My gaze went back toward the white leaves that were dying on the ground, and the shiver raced up my spine. Man is able to make two choices, son. That of life and that of death. There is no in between. The adversary is the master of illusion. He has a way of making you feel good while he's sucking the very life from you. He does not administer living water. And without that water, it's impossible for your garden to thrive. Look around you, he yelled, gesturing to all the dead trees. For a moment, it looked as if he was going to cry. Look at your garden, son. Look at all the dead trees. He pointed to the beautiful white tree. That tree is a testament of Yah's mercy. But his mercy only goes so far. And once that tree dies, your chance of remaining in the book of life goes with it. Panic shot through me so strong it took my breath. I knew I wasn't perfect in my walk, don't get me wrong. And that, in some areas I was dropping the ball. But I didn't know it was this bad. And that's just it, son. He spoke as if he could hear my thoughts. Something he did that no longer surprised me. We spend so much time placating our own flesh that we forget there are things the Spirit of Yah gifted us with need in order to remain strong. It is that Spirit that provides the living water for your garden. It is that Spirit that is the high priest of this set-apart place. But look around you. You've weakened your strong man, and the enemy has seeped in. How? Tears came to my eyes as I spoke. I've done all that was demanded of me. I've slain every demon that has crossed my path, and I will continue to fight until my dying breath. What have I done wrong, preacher? I'm only human, man. I'm doing the best that I can. Are you? He asked that question in a way to say he wasn't lying. Yeah, I am. The fact that he didn't seem to believe me enraged me. Nobody ever believed I was a true servant of the Father. Although I've given my whole life to him, they've always doubted me. It's why Lion never thought I was good enough for Ty, and why my father always felt like he had to keep extra eyes on me. It's why my brother and best friend set it in his heart to kill me the day at that gym. The preacher muttered, cutting into my thoughts. Let's examine that. He turned and began to walk from the beautiful tree down a long road that appeared out of nowhere. It didn't seem as if it had an end in sight. After taking one last look at that tree, I fell into line next to him. This place, where we were, began to shape and change around us. And then suddenly, there was an end to the road. That beautiful white tree sat at the end. But now, it seemed too far away. The land on both sides of us began to get very rugged and uneven, full of broken rocks and dark shadows. There was no light here, only darkness. The only light being that came from the preacher and that tree that was so far away that it made me want to weep. I didn't know what was happening, but suddenly I was more afraid than I've ever been in my life. I was afraid that no matter how hard I tried, I'd never reach that tree. I wanted to draw back, but I knew it was time for me to face myself. Although the spirit of life is known as your strong man, the preacher began to speak. It is very delicate and cannot dwell in the same vessel with unclean spirits. He gestured toward the miles and miles, as far as the eye could see, of rugged, dark terrain. At one time, this was all green and plush and full of life. But then something happened, and it became a dwelling place of demons. This guy will never tell you the truth. He pointed to his left, and Uber appeared, walking next to us. But both of his hands were bound and there was a gag in his mouth. He didn't look happy. In fact, he looked more frightened than I was right now. He opened the door to a spirit that came in and began to lay waste. The danger is allowing this demon to speak to you. Learn the lesson the master taught when he forbid the demon to speak. This demon, that one that looks and sounds so much like you, strikes in your vulnerable times. As we walked, the terrain to the right of me faded a bit, and that day Ty tried to hand me her letter of divorce took its place. I was young again, and so was she. I'd walked into the gym that day, and my heart was so content because she was finally mine. I felt like everything I'd gone through to understand my gift up until that point had all been worth it, because I'd at long last had the one who soothed my soul and made me feel as if I was at home. But then she was there in front of me, telling me she hated me and she didn't want to be married to me, trying to hand me a bill of divorce. The pain that shot through my heart was like nothing I'd ever felt before. Ubel and Abir were there. Because I was so focused on Ty that day, I didn't see their face. Ubel wore a wicked, satisfied grin on his face as he stepped in next to me and began to whisper in my ear. She just realized what she's done by marrying me, and now she's ashamed. She knows that her father and her mother are going to be disgusted that she married somebody they consider to be little better than dirt. Now her chances at marrying her precious Benaiah, the golden boy, and the boy Lion wants his precious daughter, is shot to hell. All because you dared put your filthy hands on her. I balled up my fists, remembering those words, thinking they had been my own thoughts at the time. How could I have been so fooled? I mean, I know better. I see this kind of stuff happen all the time to people. How can I have been deceived like this? For some reason, the preacher spoke next to me. When we go through these kinds of hurts, our anger keeps us from turning to the Heavenly Father first. Only Yah can contain the whole of the matter. No one or nothing can contain Him. Had you turned to Yah first, He would have granted you understanding. You see, son, for every action, there is an equal or greater reaction. The scene changed to show what had taken a few hours before Ty had tried to divorce me. After I dropped her off at the gym, I'd gone home to find some girl I used to mess with, whose name I couldn't even remember, waiting for me on my porch.
Dag, boy, I've been out here for over an hour and a half waiting on you.
Ubel stood next to a demonic spirit that looked just like this girl, as he congratulated it for convincing her to wait for me. But of course that day I didn't pay much attention to it. I had seen Ubel communicating with dark spirits of others before, so I didn't pay it no mind. Why? I asked him. Because at the time, with the sweet taste of Ty still on my lips, nothing could bring me down. After the dark spirit that followed her finished talking with Ubel, it went and began to whisper in her ear. She smiled at me real sexy.
Last week, you told me to meet you here, silly. We supposed to be watching a movie, and you wanted me to braid your hair.
I grinned, remembering who she was. She worked at a braid shop over there on Madison, Alaska. Last week, I thought she was cute. Now that I had time, she did nothing for me. But she was still the business when it came to them braids. So I shrugged. I had a minute before I had to pick up my girl. Why not get my hair braided? Yeah, come on in. You can bring me up real quick. The scene changed to a room I didn't recognize. She was standing in front of her closet looking at her clothes. This must be her bedroom. Anyway, the dark spirit that followed her everywhere she went was whispering in her ear, and she reached in her closet and pulled out this little short demo that would barely cover her body. For a minute, there was doubt on her face, because the spirit of light that followed her was trying to tell her that the outfit was inappropriate. But it was the dark spirit whose voice was louder, and she put on the outfit. You should know more than anyone how busy the spirit world is around us, the preacher spoke as he and I continued to watch. It doesn't rest. The war is going on at all times. The scene changed back to me in Dawiḍ's place. I turned on the game and sat on the floor, my mind on Ty's body and the way her heat felt wrapped around me and how I couldn't wait to taste her again. Dawiḍ was trying to tell me something, but I tuned him out. Standing behind me, the girl took off her jacket, revealing her sexy outfit. Then she sat on the couch behind me, spreading her legs in a way that put everything of hers out there. Dawiḍ smiled as he looked on. Dawiḍ began to speak more vehemently, trying to tell me something, but his voice was so quiet. Dawiḍ looked at him and gave him the finger before stepping aside, revealing Ty with a huge smile on her beautiful face walking up to my front door. She reached up to knock, but her gaze went to the window. Frowning, she walked toward him. The preacher and I walked with her and looked in to see what she was seeing. Oh, dear Yah, I muttered, clutching the preacher's arm for support. A younger me sat between the girl's bare thighs, with my arm thrown over one of them. Because I hadn't got much sleep the night before, I nodded off, my head damn near laying on that girl's private part. The spirit that followed the girl whispered in her ear, and she turned right then and looked back at Ty. Then she smiled before she let her hand rub down my neck to my chest. I remember that. Her caress woke me up, and I can remember thinking, why she touching me? I had no idea Ty was watching all that time. Dawiḍ was so happy. Tears of joy was in his eyes. Dawiḍ hung his head defeated. There is no such thing as coincidences, the preacher spoke. Things just don't happen. The destruction of men is a well-planned and calculated thing. The spirit world never sleeps around us. It's always plotting and searching for a way to destroy. The scene changed to show Ty laying on her bed crying her heart out. The two spirits that followed her everywhere, that looked so much like her, both sat on the bed next to her. The spirit of light rubbed her shoulder and tried to tell her that a misunderstanding had taken place. But his voice was so low because it was the spirit of darkness that had her ear.
He'll never love you, girl. The only thing he cares about is what you gave him last night. Now, he ain't got no more need for you. The only reason he loved you in the first place, or at least he thought he loved you, was because you was the first and only girl to ever tell him no. The challenge was all he was after. He wanted to conquer you, and he has. And now he done with you, except he stuck with you. Because in his need to conquer, he went and married you. Prepare yourself for a lifetime of misery. You'll never be happy, because you will always be wondering who your husband's sleeping with. You'll never know happiness like your mama. You'll never find a man be good to you like your daddy. You stuck with a man hoe who gonna bring you home a disease and a whole bunch of baby mamas.
The spirit in her ear was relentless. The more it talked, the weaker the spirit of light became, until it won, and the spirit of light faded completely. Drying her eyes, Ty sat up in her bed and began to write her song of heartbreak. It was also her attempted letter of divorce. There are many battles fought between good and evil. And that time, for the both of you, the battle was lost, the preacher said quietly. And my enraged gaze went to Ubel, who still stood bound and gagged. His eyes widened as he began to shake his head while trying to mutter more lies from between his gag. "I'm gonna kill you, mother!" I went to charge him, but the preacher stopped me with a simple touch to my chest. And trying to get away from me, Ubel tripped over his feet and fell to the ground. "Not yet, my boy. You still have more to see." His gaze went to the disgraced spirit. "To your feet, demon." Obediently, Ubel stood. We continued on down the road. The rage and the thirst I had to kill Ubel was back. He ruined my life. At one time, I thought he was my friend. He's never stopped trying to kill me. He looked at me and shook his head, trying to say something around his gag. I turned away from him. If Yah gave me the strength, I would never allow him to speak again. All his words are deceptive. He wants me dead. Ty grew up watching her father love her mother. As the preacher spoke, the terrain to the left of us began to change, showing a young Ty laughing as Lion chased Butter around the gym before catching her, picking her up and causing her to squeal in laughter, demanding him to put her down. It shifted again to show a pouting Butter, angry at Lion, and him coming into the kitchen where she was with a little flower behind his back. Ty sat at the table, coloring, and watched as her parents made up with a smile on her face. It shifted again to show Ty sitting on her mama's bed as Butter stepped down from the scale. "Oh, I'm so fat," she said, looking at herself in disgust in the mirror. "Do you know I've gained 10 pounds since the last time I weighed myself?" Lion came into the bedroom to get something, and Butter turned to look at him. "I don't even know how you can stand to be with my fat self," she muttered. He grabbed her and pulled her close. "I love my thick mama, and if Ty wasn't here, I'd show you just how much," he whispered as he kissed her neck and her ear, causing her to laugh because his beard was tickling her. Scene after scene of her daddy's love, bringing a smile to her mama's face, played out, and in every one of them, Ty watched with a look of longing in her eyes. She wanted the man to love her, like her papa loved her mama. The preacher spoke again. But when she looked at her mate, this is what she saw. The terrain to the left of us began to change, to show a young Ty sitting on the steps of the gym, looking across the gym at me, shamelessly flirting with a girl that wore a pair of teeny shorts and a halter top. It shifted again to show us at the basketball court with the big buck girl on my lap, and I had 2 big hands full of her assets. Ty sitting on the swings, watching with sorrow in her eyes. It shifted again to show some girl sitting on my car with her legs spread and me standing in between them, kissing on her neck. Ty was standing on the corner in front of the store, watching. Scene after scene passed with me talking or kissing or touching some random girl, and Ty watching. In some of these scenes, she had tears in her eyes. In others, she tried to hide her hurt, but I saw it, because I know what my girl looked like when she hurt. Thing is, if only I had seen it back then. There was a time the men of our bloodline was known to be the strongest in all the land, the preacher began to speak. But the devil discovered 3 things that he could use to destroy us: women, booze, and money. Our forefather warned us about this. He warned us that these 3 things could be used to weaken us. No, wait, I swear, man, these women didn't mean nothing to me. I was just buying my time till Ty got him, old enough to be mine. The preacher turned to look at me then with disgust in his eyes. Those women are daughters of Zion, son. And although they may have not meant anything to you, they meant something to the Father. and he heard their cry. The terrain to the right of us changed to show some girl working up her nerves to approach me.
Hey, Monroe, I've been trying to call you all week, but for some reason, my call isn't going through.
At the time, I was trying to talk another girl to take a ride with me. Now, I call them girls not to be mean, but because for the life of me, I couldn't remember none of their names. Hey, I'm sorry, shorty, my phone must have broke. I told her, before turning back to the girl I was talking to. The one who I had just lied to stood behind me and her eyes welled up in tears. She turned to walk away and made it as far as around the corner before she sat on the curb and began to cry. After that, scenes began to come so fast, the many girls and women that have cried over me, that it was too much. Stop, I yelled, clutching my ears because their weeping became so loud it was deafening. Ubel closed his eyes as he tried to strain to free his hands so he too could cover his ears. The preacher just stood and watched us both with anger in his. The weeping was too much. Stop, I cried, hitting my knees. There were now tears in my eyes. I was also made to feel their pain, and it was too much. It was more than I could bear. Please, please. My head touched the dirt as I nearly balled up into the fetal position. Their pain combined with ties was getting ready to kill me. The preacher squatted down next to me. Only Yah sees the whole, son. Only He know that you didn't hurt those women because you was evil. Only He knows that you hurt them because you too have been hurt. The weeping stopped all at once, and Yah took their pain away from me. Gasping for breath, I looked up as the terrain began to change, to show me as a baby in my baby crib, looking at all the demons and the angels outside my window. I was afraid. They were very scary looking to me. I cried for my mother. At first, she rocked me trying to figure out what was wrong with me, and I tried to tell her, but because I was a baby, it only came out as a cry. She got so tired of me that she put me back in the crib and shut the door before going into the living room and turning the music up to fade out the sounds of me screaming. And that's when I saw her for the first time. I saw death. It came through our apartment, through my room, to the apartment next door. It was so horrible, and I screamed in fear until I fainted. My mother thought I'd finally gone to sleep, but I hadn't. I fainted. And that wouldn't be the first time. The terrain changed to the day she dropped me off at my grandmother's house in the Bronx. I knew she was getting ready to leave me, and I needed her. I reached for her, begging her not to leave me, but she looked at me with such disgust. I will never forget that look. It seared into my memory.
I can't handle him no more. If you don't want him, drop him off at the police department or something. I'm done. Wait a minute.
My grandmother grabbed her arm.
What about his father? You went and got pregnant by him, thinking that was gonna trap him. And now what? Why don't you call him?
My mother shrugged her arm off her.
He sends me money every month. I'll give you half.
My grandmother looked at her as if she lost her mind.
Half? If I'm taking care of him, should I get it all? Don't worry, he sends enough to take care of us all. You greedy... You need to give it all to me. I will call him, and I will tell him to send the money to me, because I got his kid.
My mother's disgusted gaze fell on me.
If I'm a greedy... I learned it from you.
She hissed before she walked to the door.
Call him. I don't care. I'm done.
And then she turned to leave. I cried all night long, needing her. My grandmother didn't hug me, didn't hold me, nothing. Abir tried to keep the other spirits that frightened me away, but Ubel did all that he could do to expose me to them. The terrain changed to show the day my hair turned white. I had awakened in my bed to see death standing over me. My heart failed in fear. I screamed at the top of my lungs. It was my second time seeing him, but never this close. My grandmother ran into my room and stopped at the door when she saw me. The look of horror that came into her eyes scared me. She crossed herself and ran to call my dad.
You got to come quick. He's the devil. He's the devil. He can't stay in my house no more.
I ran to the corner of the room trying to get away from Dad and listened as she screamed at my father. When he finally got there and came into my room, he appeared bigger than life. He looked down at me, and for a moment, the same look that was in my grandmother's eyes was in his. But it was only for a moment before he bent down and scooped me up in his arms. As he carried me out the door, I looked at Death, who stood next to my grandmother, and watched me leave. When she shut the door, she thought she was closing out a monster, but she only managed to close one inside with her. I would later find out that she died of a heart attack that night. Unlike other people, the preacher began to speak. You were not granted the ability to forget not one single moment of your life. And you blamed everything you went through on your mother. And because of her, you disregard the heart of every woman you came in contact with till time. You see, your way of punishing your mother was hurting those who reminded you of her. But at last, son, this is what you didn't see. The terrain changed to show my mother bringing me home from the hospital. My grandmother was there. She was yelling at her for keeping the baby of a man who didn't love her.
You stupid Blantano. You went and had the Haitian's baby. He don't want to have nothing to do with you.
She laughed bitterly.
Did you think he was going to marry you? Look at you. You stuck to raise this kid you don't even want. Shut up, Mama. I want him.
My mother said, holding me in her arms, looking down at me. I clutched my stomach, suddenly feeling too sick. There was love in her eyes. My gaze rose to the preacher, and I looked at him through tears. I shook my head. I don't understand. She loved you, son, he whispered, and nodded back to the scene. Standing next to her, looking down at me with hate in her eyes, was the spirit of darkness that looked so much like my mother.
Your mama is right. You should have never had his child. He's not gonna love you. He's never going to love you. This is only going to make him hate you. You should have gotten rid of this child. It's only going to bring evil to your doorstep.
The spirit of light that resembled my mother counteracted it.
That's not true. You have no idea what you just brought into this world. The Ancient of Days have used you to give birth to a great warrior.
My mother smiled, hearing that voice.
It's why I called him Monroe,
she told her mother, who frowned at her.
What you rambling about,
she hissed. My mother smiled at her.
I named him Monroe because I had a dream that he was one day going to be a great warrior.
I reached out for the preacher, feeling like I was getting ready to fall. My mother loved me. Oh dear Yah, my mother loved me. The terrain changed to show her trying to comfort me when I first started seeing spirits. She did everything. She prayed for me. She tried to play music. She tried to give me a bottle. The whole time the spirit of darkness that followed her was in her ear, telling her that I hated her, and that's why I wouldn't stop crying. Because my mother was in an unclean state due to giving birth to me, she listened because she was weak. The spirit of light that followed her tried to deny the lies, but his voice was too low because my mother had begun to listen to the spirit of darkness.
You need to kill this child,
he told her over and over again.
You must kill him before he grows.
My mother shook her head.
I can't. I can't.
And I couldn't take it anymore. I looked away from the scene. I couldn't take anymore. The preacher squatted down in front of me, holding me prisoner in that ancient gaze of his. You've refused to use your eyes. But as you can see, Using your eyes is only a small part of seeing. Seeing is being aware that everything you do, every word you say, every action done by your hands is planting seeds. Seeing is knowing what seeds you are planting and where they are growing. He stood pointing at Dawiḍ. This enemy cannot be defeated with brute strength. To defeat him, you must first defeat yourself. Accept what you've done. Face the fact that you've hurt a lot of people and pray that the Father forgives you. And then he turned and began to walk down that long road towards that beautiful tree. Still on my knees, I watched him go through tears. A groan came from somewhere deep inside of me as an overwhelming urge to worship the Father came over me. I fell to my face and I began to call out his name in my shame. Over and over I cried out his name. I was so ashamed of myself and all the horrible things that I've done. No wonder my family looked at me the way that they had. No wonder Ty tried to avoid me. She tried not to love me because she knew loving me was going to bring her heartache. I'd been so blind. I'd always been blinded to what was right in front of me. I had everything so wrong. My mother did the best she could. She fought off the demon that tried to convince her to kill me. It was because of her love that I was still alive today. Oh dear Yah, I cried out. Forgive me, Father. Forgive me for being so blind. Oh Yah, help me. Help me, Father. I don't know how long I laid on that road face down in prayer. Maybe it was hours, maybe minutes. But when Ubel left, I felt it. For the first time in my life, I felt free. And for a moment, it took my breath away. For the first time, the being that caused me to be blind was gone. And now, I could see. Use me! It began as a little mutter. Use me, Father Yah. My cry grew as I desperately reached for him. Use me, Yah. Use me, Yah. I was now yelling this at the top of my lungs, needing him more than I needed breath. I am yours. Don't leave me, please, Father. I am yours. I belong to you. Please use me. I cried over and over, needing him. I needed him with everything I had inside of me. Every muscle, every fiber of my being reached out for him, needing him to feel me. And it was then I heard Ty's voice. It was combined with that of a violin. The strange song wrapped around me, encasing me in its comfort. And I knew then that Abba Yah had granted me one more chance. Come on, son. You did well. You defeated your enemy. Now for the first time, open your eyes and see. The preacher's voice came from above me. When I opened my eyes, I was face down in the sand. My head popped up, and I saw that I was back on the beach. My gaze thirstily took in the ocean in front of me. I could see the water. Yeah, I could see the water. I looked at the preacher. I could see, I told him. I could see, I yelled. Hallelujah, I cried, coming to my knees. Hallelujah! My voice broke from my tears as I clutched my stomach, overwhelmed by this great blessing. I didn't deserve his blessing. I didn't deserve this second chance at life. I had been so wicked. I had hurt so many people. My precious Ty. My precious Jewel. I hurt her most of all. And through it all, she still loved me. I didn't deserve her love. I didn't deserve any of their love. Now I know and understand why Dawiḍ wanted to kill me. I can see it now. It was all so very clear. I felt the preacher drape something warm over my shoulders. I could smell that it was leather. If we only knew how merciful the Heavenly Father was. If we only knew all that He sacrificed for us to live. The preacher repeated before he stood. Go to your bride, son. She needs you. She's in so much pain. Abir will show you the way. Abir came from my right, using his big head to butt me in the face. I grabbed a hold of his fur, wrapping my arms around him, hugging him close. Hey, buddy. Boy, am I glad to see you. Poor Abir has spent his whole life fighting for mine. It's because I love you. His voice brushed in my mind. I love you too, buddy. After I came to my feet, feeling lighter than I ever felt, I saw that the preacher had put a coat around my shoulders. It was a long white leather duster. Wow. Thanks, man. This is amazing. And it was. Whoever had sewn it did astounding work. I lifted my arms and saw the teeny threads in it appeared gold. Don't thank me. If you're gonna thank anybody, thank Tabby girl. She's the only one left who can do this kind of work. Thank Abiyah who put it on her heart to make it for you. This coat will never age. It will never get dirty or torn. And trust me, son, with the days you have ahead of you, you're gonna need it. And with that, he turned and walked away. I watched him go with a smile on my face as I stood rubbing Abiyah's fur. Dear Yah, I felt like a new man. You want to see Ty? Abiyah brushed in my mind. Oh yeah, I couldn't wait to see my girl. I don't care if it took the rest of my life, I was going to make it up to her. She wanted a husband like her father. I was going to be a better husband. I will make her laugh again. And so help me, Yah, if it's the last thing I did, I will make her want to sing again. I heard the galloping of my horse before I saw him. With a loud whoop, I reached up and I grabbed a hold of his white mane, just as he galloped past me, leaping on his back. Abir's powerful legs ate up the earth next to me as we made our way down the beach. As we rode, Abir told me he led my horse and Ty this way over 20 hours ago. I was amazed that I'd been out that long. Like I said, I couldn't tell if it had been hours or minutes. I tried to get him to tell me where he took it, but he wouldn't. He just kept saying it was a surprise, and that I wasn't going to believe it when I saw it. However, I heard it first. We'd been traveling through the mountain terrain for about 2 hours when the hunting sound of the violin made its way to my ears. It was the same tune that pulled me out of my prayer. Although it was clearly a melody, it kind of sounded like a siren. It sounded as if it was calling me. I kneed my horse, gently urging him to go faster, feeling the need to answer the call. We rode for another 30 or so minutes before we came upon a camp. I was glad I had thought to put on my shoulder holster before falling asleep. I didn't know what I was walking into. However, the sight ahead of me brought all my thoughts to a halt. Standing on a hill of sorts was Ty. She was dressed in a beautiful gown that reflected in the moonlight, making her appear as if she was a celestial being. Her eyes were closed, and she swayed to the tune of the violin in a way that let me know she was not in control of her body. Standing to the right of her, slightly higher on the hill, was another woman. She was dressed similar to Ty. Her eyes were closed, and it was she who was playing the beautiful violin. I studied the spirit that stood very close to the woman. It was the spirit of light. I could not see the spirit of darkness. On the other side of Ty, a man dressed in a pair of black cargo pants and a vest made out of the same substance as the dress Ty and the woman who played the violin wore, sat on a stool in front of a djembe drum that was made of the same wood of the violin. His eyes were closed, and he too swayed to the tune of the violin in a way that showed he was not in control of his body. Standing next to him was a spirit of light that looked just like him. The spirit of darkness could not be found. Judging by the muscular build of the man and the way he sat on the stool, I could tell he was a warrior as well as a drummer. Standing high on the hill were two men who looked as if they were father and son. Both of them had long locks that hung down their backs. However, the older of the two locks were gray. Both of them were dressed similar to the drummer. Their eyes were closed, and they too swayed from side to side in the way of the others. In their hands were two magnificent shofars that was ingrained in gold. The gold was so clean that it too reflected the moonlight along with their outfits. This group didn't look as if they came from Earth. They've been that way all day. I turned to see a man that was about Shlomo's age sitting on the log next to me. I knew from his build and the beautiful sword on his waist that he too was a warrior. "Who are you?" I asked. He nodded toward the woman playing the violin. "She's my wife." My gaze went back to the woman. It was her instrument that they all swayed to. "And who is she?" "She's the Earth Bride." I nodded. Of course, I had no idea who that was, but I'm sure I was getting ready to find out. "We've been waiting on you." His words caused my gaze to come back to his. I frowned. "Me?" He nodded. "Yep." Standing from the log, he held out his hand for me to shake. "Malek Black, at your service."